You are listening to the strongest podcast in CrossFit. This is the Type 1 Lifting Podcast. Before we start the show, I'd like to thank the sponsors that are helping this podcast grow. The first one is Liberté Lifestyle. Liberté Lifestyle have the best knee sleeves in the game. I've worn all different types of knee sleeves, and I always go back to Liberté. They're super durable, they don't rip, and they last a very, very long time. So go check out Liberté Lifestyle and check out all the different styles of knee sleeves that they have. And then the next one we have is Hero Barbell. Hero Barbell is the fastest growing barbell company in the functional fitness community. Their barbells have all different colors, all different designs, super comfortable. The knurlings are amazing, and the spin on these barbells are absolutely insane. So go to Hero Barbell to check out all the different type of barbells that they have in stock. And then the last one is Sharpen the Axe. Sharpen the Axe, I've been wearing their clothes for multiple years. They're long sleeve shirts, sweatshirts, shorts. I always wear them. You may have even seen them on the podcast before they became a sponsor. Super comfortable. The shorts I always wear working out because I just feel like they're a better fit for me compared to the Nikes or any other shorts in the game. So all these companies, I have a promo code. It's all Type 1. So click Type 1 in all the promo code sections and you get 10% off of every item you get. So once again, thank you for these companies to help this podcast grow. And let's go to the show. All right, guys, welcome to another episode of the Type 1 Lifting Podcast. I have the digital content creator and pickleball enthusiast, Evan Slaughter. How's it going, man?
Man, it's going good, dude. I appreciate you having me on the show.
Yeah, no, thank you for coming on. And I know you said you just moved to Nashville, so I know you've only been there for a little while. So what is the reason why you moved there? Was because of Tia or trying to get with Daniel Brandon?
Funny story. I have seen her at the gym. Like, first gym I went to, a buddy of mine owns, and she's in there working out. And I was like, no way, it's meant to be, you know? So apparently she just moved to Nashville too. So she hadn't been here that long as well.
Yeah. So how do you like it so far?
I love it, man. I actually went to college here when
Okay.
I was, in college age. I went to college for a couple years here before moving back to Birmingham. And my brother went to college here. So he still lives just north of Nashville. Still got some friends from college in the area. A couple brands I work with are here. It's only about 2.5 hours from Birmingham, where I'm from. So not far from the family. So it's been a good move so far.
Yeah. And it feels like it's a big city, but I feel like it's still growing too. Cause I live about 4 hours away because I live in Georgia.
Oh,
And
okay.
so, so last time we were there, it was like blown up, like all these apartments, and it's just like nonstop. So is that what you're kind of seeing too?
Totally. They actually told me, I think, when I was looking at apartments right at the end of 2023, it was like December timeframe I was looking. And one of the places I looked was telling us that I think 14,000 more units were becoming available before the end of 2023. So it's jumping right now, man.
Yeah. Do you think people want to go there because they want to wear cowboy boots and all that stuff and be a little country?
I don't know. I think it's kind of because country music's definitely, kind of the heart of this place.
Mm-hmm.
But you're seeing more of like an Austin, Texas vibe, if you're familiar with Austin, So there's a good music scene across the board. There's some good pro sports, It's just kind of becoming a unique place to be,
Mm-hmm. Very cool. Very cool. Now, I don't know if you know this, but we have a little bit of something in common. So
Okay.
we're both prior military.
Oh, and I didn't know. Yeah, I didn't realize you were prior military.
Yeah, so I'm retired Air Force. So
Okay.
I was an Air Force medic. Well, not like a 4.051. It's like almost considered like a medic kind of deal.
Yeah.
So I was there for 7 years, and I left to go down to Georgia, and I went like inactive reserve. So I was a reservist because I signed up when I was 27 going in.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
I was super late.
Yeah.
And so, and I got out like 7 years later, and then, moved down here, and then all of a sudden became a type 1 diabetic. So,
oh, wow. Yeah. Okay.
yeah.
Did you get out, like medically retire? or you just kind of got out? Oh, cool. Okay.
No, I got out. Well, so I was trying to get medically retired and get like the 50% disability,
Yeah.
but there was like nothing in my files saying I had like any diabetes symptoms or anything like that.
Wow.
So yeah. So and it's like and they even said if you're a reservist, it's to be honest with you, it's not even worth it because you probably won't
Yeah.
get it.
Yeah. I've heard it's a pain in the butt. At least it was in the Army to medically retire. It's a process. Like some people were extending their contracts just to stay in long enough to go through the process of medical. It was ridiculous.
Yeah, it's crazy. But out of all the branches, you decided to join the army. So what was the most interesting thing for you to join the army compared to all the other branches?
Man, I basically, I had some friends that were in the military. Of course, I graduated high school in 2004.
Hmm.
So 9/11 happened my sophomore year. And so getting out of high school, I had some friends that went into the military, and it was always, I was always intrigued by, there's a lot going on, heavy action that time. And so whenever I decided to join, I knew nothing about really the branches of service. I knew I wanted to be in some kind of combat MOS. I
Hmm.
wanted to deploy. I wanted to do all these cool things. And so I went to the Marine Corps first, and it was much harder of a process to join the military than I expected. I thought I was going to walk in and like music was going to play, like, oh, like, and they were going to kiss my
Yeah.
ass about being here and thank you, but that's just not how it goes. It was like, I had to take all these pictures in a PT uniform because at the time they weren't allowing tattoos or they were
That's
having
right.
to
Yeah.
get tattoos approved that were showable in a PT uniform. Of course, the guy recruiting me, he's got tattoos up his hands and his neck, so I'm like, whatever, whatever, dude. But, and it was just a long process. I had to get people to write references, do all this stuff. And then I found out that I wouldn't even leave to go to boot camp for another 9 months. And I kept thinking, well, I don't even know if I want to be in the military in 9 months. Like, this is a decision we got to make now. I'm ready to do
Yep.
it now. I thought we'd get on
Yes.
a bus today and go or something, or tomorrow, So anyways, I've kind of shopped around after that. I went to the Air Force next, actually, and kind of looked into the pararescue program, talked to them about what kind of combat MOS options were out there. And then right next door was the Army. So walk into the Army, and they were the fastest, easiest to join at the time, fastest to get me to basic training. Joined as an infantryman, waited about 3 or 4 months after joining, and then got on a bus January and headed out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, very cool, very cool. So yeah, so the reason why I joined the Air Force was because one of the guys I was working with at the hospital I was at was like, hey, you should join the Air Force. That you get better medical experience. You can work
Yeah.
with and astronauts and like whatever your heart desires. And I was like, okay, cool. So, and then they told me I had to sign a 6-year contract, and me being 27, like, I don't know anything. Like, I don't know what I'm going to do in a month in advance. Like,
Yeah, I
shit.
know.
So it's like 6 years, and I literally had to go to the bathroom and sit down on the toilet. And I'm like, is this really worth it? Is this
Yeah,
really worth it? So, and I signed up, and I wish I could have done the full 20, but
I know. I
it
just
happens.
wasn't a desire for me at the time, I don't think. I mean, that's a lot of years. Like, you look at guys that come out, and unless you do it, like guys that join at 18, do 20 years, they retire, full retirement at 38, and then go get another job on top of having that retirement. Like, it just doesn't seem worth it unless you go that route. But that's a
Yeah, yeah.
commitment, dude. That's how, you and I both know how hard it is to pull that off.
No, yeah, yeah. There's like you don't get family time really. You have to go on all these like training sessions and all that stuff, and like
Yeah.
then getting deployed. That's another thing. So
Yeah.
yeah. So you got deployed to what was it, Afghanistan
Yep.
at the time?
Spin Bulldog, Afghanistan. Yep.
Yeah. So when they told you that you're getting deployed to Afghanistan, like what was going through your head throughout the whole process of like, hey, I'm getting deployed. Like, what am I gonna expect?
Yeah, that's a good question. I kind of at the time, and I think I was probably, I always forget the exact years. I know I deployed 2011, 2012. So that would have been, let's see, 23 years. Yeah, I would have been, 24, I guess.
Hmm.
Um, so still young and not, not, I had that invincible mentality. Like, I'm not going to die. No, no, I'm invincible. I lived my life that way for so long. But it was kind of fast. I went to airborne school after infantry
Mm-hmm.
training, and then I went to special forces selection in Fort Bragg. And I had to do SOPSI, which is the prerequisite for an 18 X-ray. Which 18 X-ray is basically just like a guaranteed shot to go to selection, or at least to SOPSI and then selection. So
Mm-hmm.
SOPSI is like special operations prep and conditioning. Past that, and then you go to selection. Well, I ended up failing the last event in selection and getting dropped. But because I had done all this stuff and had a decent GT score on the ASVAB and all these, airborne qualified infantry, I got orders to go to this long range surveillance unit in Fort Hood, Texas. And so we get there after I leave Fort Bragg and immediately, of course, find out we're deploying. So it's like, obviously they were gearing up for deployment, and
Yeah.
trying to get some guys down there. So we came down and immediately sort of started training, then took some leave for some pre-deployment leave, and then came back and it was time to go. And it just happened so fast,
Mm-hmm.
that was the thing. And plus you're around, a group of individuals and a unit that's just, people have been deployed before. You're training for this, it's like at my level, lower ranking dude at the time, I'm just responding to orders anyways.
Yeah.
So wasn't a lot to think about on my end. I think I was just kind of like wanting to deploy, ready to do this, didn't know what to expect, and glad I had good leadership to kind of guide me through it.
Mm-hmm. Very cool. Very cool. So, when you got deployed, I know you got hit by an IED and it kind of jacked your ankle up. So, like, obviously, like I've never been in that experience. Pretty much like 99% of the other people have never been in that experience. But what was that like when you're like Humvee got hit with an IED?
Man, it was at first I didn't know what happened. That was kind of like what I've heard before, I think, about it, especially being in it the first time. So we actually had just gotten into country to our fob where we were going to be at for the majority of the deployment. And I'm sitting there on QRF. It was our turn to do QRF, quick reaction force. So anything comes in, we're the first ones to spin up and go. And we get a call. And I mean, this is like not even a month after being at the FOB,
Mm-hmm.
that we have a KIA, killed in action. So we're like, as soon as that hit and I heard that, that's when it kind of everything became real, crap, someone from our unit was just killed. And we weren't a huge unit, so for the most part, everybody kind of knew each other. So we spin up, we start heading out there. And actually the guy it happened so fast after getting there that the unit that we were replacing was still there. They were actually, you spend some time doing some overlap so they can take you around and show you all the area and introduce you to the right people and this and that. So they were actually still there. And one of the guys, he was like, I'll drive because I know right where this is at. So he jumps in the driver's seat. I'm in the gunner's spot, stand up turret on a Oshkosh MATV. And our platoon sergeant's in the passenger side, and then I got a buddy who's a dismount sitting kind of by my feet. And so we like head out there. It's real rough. Fortunately, we had what's called a mine roller attached to the front, so it's digging through the sand looking for pressure plate IEDs with the hopes that if it finds one, it sets it off in front of the vehicle so you don't take the blunt of the blast.
Yeah.
And our job was to get out there, kind of pull security, help with the scene that was going on, And so we're riding through the desert, man, and start to cross this wadi, which is a dried up creek bed where it's just real soft and easy to dig, And so we're going through there, and then boom, I just remember hearing this really loud, explosion, but it wasn't like how people think of an explosion, like a big, TV, like,
Yeah. Like
mushroom
Michael.
cloud.
Yeah. Like Michael Bay movies. So
Exactly.
yeah.
This was more like the way I've kind of been describing it is that this is more like if you're right next to an 18-wheeler semi truck and all the tires blow out on that truck at once. Poof, it's like a loud pop. And then of course it was followed up with like a chemical sensation, like burn, smell, and you don't know what's going on. The whole truck's filled with crap. And so yeah, I didn't know it was happening until the platoon sergeant in the passenger seat up front started calling in contact IED. And that's when I was like, oh shit, we hit an IED. And I had damaged my ankle. I was standing on some ammo cans because I'm short, and I was like getting good visibility above the gun turret. And when that happened and my feet came off those ammo cans, it twisted, rolled my ankle and dislocated a tendon in my ankle. And I had some other bumps and bruises, but ultimately, I was fine, fortunately. So
Mm-hmm. Was anybody else in the Humvee worse off than you were at all, or?
yeah, the driver, it was his like second time to hit an IED in a month or so.
Jeez.
And so he was he was backing out of the kill zone as it happened, put it in reverse and go straight back. And he only got so far before he lost consciousness. And then I remember they had to, the medics came and got him. And then they medevaced him to Kandahar. And then from there, I hopefully, I never heard anything else, but I'm pretty sure he turned out to be okay. But yeah, they had to fly him to Kandahar. So
Jeez, that's crazy. So, when you were getting treated and stuff like that at the hospital, so was it at the FOB at all, or did you have to go to Kandahar, or like where did you have to go to get it treated?
yeah, so I just went back to the FOB, and they were able to put like a boot, on my leg. And then actually the medic there was, once we kind of diagnosed what was going on with my ankle, of course you take a TBI, test as well. Make sure you pass the TBI test for traumatic brain injury, all that good stuff.
Mm.
I passed that. It was just my ankle that was jacked up. And so once they determined it was a dislocated tendon, the medic kind of told me straight up, he was like, look, you could go to Germany and have surgery on this. Like, you could fly from here to Germany. We could request that. Go to Germany, have surgery, but then you would go home. And I didn't want to do that. I wanted to stay. I'd already been planning on doing the 12-month deployment. I was really close with the guys in my group on my team. It was I'd already planned on what I was going to do with the money that I made from being in deployment, and I was just thinking, I don't want to go, I want to be here. And so, but he said, and also the surgery on that can kind of go a couple ways. It can be sometimes not good, not successful. He said, so if it was me, I would let it heal like it is. And then if it ever causes problems in the future, you can get it looked at again. But so that's what I decided to do. And honestly, since then, it's been fine. So it's more apt to injury. So if I'm doing something where I'm moving around or, quick movements, I really have to be careful because it can sprain or damage easily. But I haven't had any real issues with it since that incident.
Wow. Okay, cool. So, I know you talked in other podcasts that you had like kind of like an opioid addiction. So did that come with the ankle injury, or was that like after you left for the military?
No, so I was actually prone to opiate addiction prior to the military. I'd struggled before with opiates, but nothing too serious. Got off them, was able to join the military, all that good stuff, feeling good. But it didn't come back around until that injury. And of course, once I was, being prescribed opiates from the injury and put on pain management, ultimately, whenever we got back from deployment, that's where it really took off, because in my mind, I had a really valid excuse for being on these strong of opiates, even though I knew in my heart that it was not a good thing for me and that I was probably going to go down a road I shouldn't go down. But in my mind, I'm like, screw this, dude. I've got like free access to this stuff. It's a valid reason. Prescription, the government's or the military, through insurance covers the cost of it. And that's kind of what kicked it back off for me for sure.
Yeah. So I have like my thoughts on it a little bit, but do you
Yeah.
think that the military actually over prescribes people pain medications or whatnot? Because here's the reason why I think that. So when I was over in was it launch Kaiserslautern? We were at Ramstein Air Force Base
Okay.
and so our job was to pick the people up from the airplanes, bring them on the bus, and then bring them over to the military hospital, which was like maybe like 25 minutes away. And so it was almost like we were like kind of like a mass unit. And so there was one dude sitting there. He was going to get treated, and he was like just sitting there on like a normal chair, and he's like, "Oh, I have like a lot of pain right now." And so the nurse that was on the bus decided to give him morphine, And so, and I was like, holy fuck, are you really giving him morphine right now? And he's like, yeah, that's what we give him before they get into the hospital. I was like, you got to be what? And so I'm like, this guy is just standing here, just sitting here, like completely normal, like doesn't look like he's in pain. And you give him something that could be something bad, like later on down the road. So I don't know. Do you feel that they overprescribe that kind of stuff in the military?
I think there was a pattern of it for sure, and I think it's definitely something that is easily, it's a solution. It's a quick solution. As you
Mhm.
and I both know, the military is a lot of box checking, right? Do this, check that box, fill this form out. There's a form for everything. There's a protocol for everything. And I think at one point, the protocol, and this is just my opinion, was to just handle everything medically with prescription stuff. Now, what I've learned through that, though, is that especially now, I think in the VA and with or at least in the VA and with the opioid epidemic,
Mhm.
that kind of has become prevalent,
Yeah.
I think that it's caused them to pull back some. Um, the other side of that, like I think it's harder to just, go and get on this. Because my thing was, once I got back to base, it was like, all right, the medics, I was having this pain, obvious injury documented from an IED blast. Their solution was to refer me to pain management, which I had to go to a civilian doctor for. And it was the kind of same thing there. You got a pain management. They know why you're there, and they're
Mhm.
going to put you on something super strong for the most part. So it definitely was an easy way for them to kind of check that box. We did our part, and we handled it this way.
Yeah.
But I also take some of the responsibility for that, because I knew I had a problem with opiates, and I could have said something and said, "Hey, I don't need to be on any kind of opioid. Is there another solution?" And I started, obviously doing that now, being sober from opiates, and I actually had to tell the VA after I'd gotten sober that I don't need to be on opioids. So it's in my file that unless something terrible's happened and there's no other solution, their first remedy is to not give me opioids. So
Mhm. Yeah.
part of that's my responsibility.
Yeah. So do you think it's kind of like a last ditched effort to give you like opioids if you really really need it? Is that, or they just want to give you like ibuprofen or whatever?
Yeah. I mean, obviously, there was a time where I accidentally shot a pellet, like a .177 caliber, almost close to a 22, air pellet right all the way through my toe. And this was after getting out of the military and everything. Wasn't paying attention. Thought the safety was on, and actually went to put the safety on. It was one of those trigger safeties that's right in front of the
Oh,
trigger.
yep.
Stupidest design in the world. And I
Yeah.
was on the phone talking to somebody in this conversation. I had the barrel pointed down because there was like a roof over my head and other houses around. And I was like shooting squirrels in the back, and I just pulled that trigger, man, and it shot right through my toe. And I went to the emergency room and told them, I can't be on opiates. And he said, if we don't prescribe you opiates, you're going to be in some serious pain. And they did it anyway. So,
Jeez. Yeah, that's crazy. Like when I was working in the ER in Boston, as like I would see people coming in all the time for like, they're like literally would circle ERs like all around like the
yeah,
neighborhood and just like say, "Hey, I'm not feeling well," or like, and like they try to
yeah,
prescribe like and it's mainly in their file too, like, "Hey, this guy goes to like all these different places too."
yeah,
So it's it's
yeah.
it's crazy like how opioids can like really get somebody to be addicted to it.
Yeah. Well, and then the problem is that once the opioids aren't working enough, or you're not getting them like you were through prescription, then you turn to the streets, and you start buying heroin or fentanyl or whatever. And that's how you get all these overdoses, right?
Yeah, yeah, it's crazy. But when did you really notice a pattern that it was like not going the right direction that you wanted to when you were addicted? So like when was like did you realize it, or did someone else realize it and tell you like, "Hey, this is not really the right track. We want to see you going."
No, yeah, it was a combination of a lot of things. I struggled with sobriety on and off. So, like, I get out of the military, and when I got out of the military, I left, being prescribed to a lot of different things, and then of course you lose your TRICARE insurance and all that stuff. You get out. There's a period. It took me a year to get everything finalized with the VA before I could start using the VA, which is just absurd.
Insane.
So, it's crazy. So I start seeing, going to a civilian doctor. I've got medical documents from being in an IED incident. They're quick to give stuff out too. And it just kind of continued. And so I struggled, I got in, I got into some legal trouble, ended up, I mean, it was, it went down a dark road for me. And then I found sobriety through, just needing to make some changes, and started going to some AA meetings and stuff like that type stuff. My problem was never alcohol or anything. It was just always opiates, but found a good network of people in there that understood sobriety and understood addiction and understood and kind of could help me through that process. So ultimately having some good friends and a solid network, they recognize when something's off, but when things get bad enough to where it's like, all right, I got to do something to change this, or I'm going to end up in jail or dead or what, and I don't want that for myself, that's for me, some call it hit, finding your rock bottom or whatever. In my experience, I've found a bottom and then knocked the floor out of it and found a new bottom and then knocked the, so I don't even really like finding that bottom, because what's the ultimate bottom, death or life imprisonment, it can lead to that. So for me, it was just things got bad enough to where I wanted to make a change. And I'm grateful that I had the desire to want to make a change and to want to live and to want, to not want to live that way and to do so, because not everybody feels that way,
True. Yeah. Yeah. They just think they're perfectly okay. And then they have like a group of people talking to them, and they're like, no, I'm perfectly fine. And so then they, keep on still using because they think that their life is perfectly okay.
Yeah, that, or they're so miserable that they don't care,
That's
and
true.
their only solution is to end their life or to, do something drastic. And so I was very fortunate. I consider it being very fortunate that I didn't have that desire to want to take those kind of drastic measures, and I wanted to do something about it.
Yeah. And so I heard of another podcast. You were in a rehab facility too.
Yeah.
And so that was a huge help for you too. And also that's where you found pickleball.
Yeah.
So I know pickleball is like considered the new CrossFit, that like everyone wants to tell everybody that like, hey, I do pickleball. So
Yeah.
do you kind of see that for the doing pickleball?
Yeah, man. It's becoming, it was so funny because when I did discover it at the rehab that I was at, it was like kind of one of those things, fate or whatever, where you can't, and I just fell in love with the game, and it got me back active again. And it was so much fun playing it with your friends and socializing and having a good time, that when I got out of the rehab, I continued to do it. And I didn't know how big it was or how big it was becoming. And then I discovered this whole world of pickleball and professional pickleball, and it just seems to continue to be blowing up and going. But yeah, there's definitely a correlation, with buying paddles and buying gear and playing all the time and using all this terminology and having your little group of friends,
Yeah, it's crazy because I have an Amazon, I have an Alexa, like an Amazon Home, like Alexa thing, and like I once in a while I'll see like an image saying watch live pickleball on through like and I'm like, what? There's like live pickleball like everywhere, like you can find it anywhere, and I'm like, that's crazy.
Yeah, and I think the reason it's doing that is because Amazon Prime has shown some of the championship rounds. So they were streaming the pro stuff on YouTube. So YouTube stream, they'd show the live events. And then like for the championship matches, I think Amazon Prime picked it up for some of them. And then now they've got like a partnership, I think, coming out with the tennis channel. That's like the pickleball channel. And, so it's making its way around.
Yeah. And you have your own paddle too.
Got my own paddle out. Yeah. So one of the first deals I signed, I started making this pickleball content, doing my comedy stuff, and was at the time, again, kind of oblivious to how big it was. So when I started making some of these comedy videos around pickleball that started to have success, I was getting contacted a lot. People wanting to send paddles out and stuff. And we would love for you to use our paddle or try, So one of the companies that approached me was Valair Pickleball out of Austin, Texas. And I love their stuff. I love their paddle. I love their design. It's quality paddle. They got it's cool. It's, they got stuff that's professional quality. So you could definitely play in a professional tournament with it. And people do, but they got stuff for, they understand the importance of the rec players out there, and the majority of the people just going out and playing and having fun. So we signed a deal. I've got like a multi-year deal with them, and then
Sweet.
just this past year they were like, we got to put out a custom fit to serve paddle. So we did, and we worked on the design for a while. It took several months, and we finally got it there and got it out, man. It seems to be doing well so far.
That's awesome. That's so cool. And I've seen the paddle. It looks, it has like, you with the glasses, like with
Yeah.
just the glass. And it's a great design. I love it. So
I appreciate it. I was really happy with how it came out.
yeah, I mean, I would be too if I saw that. So definitely. But you talked about doing content creation. So did you, after you came out of rehab, is that when it started, or like when TikTok came pretty popular? Like when did you realize like, hey, I want to possibly get into this kind of space?
Yeah, so that's a great question. I got out of the rehab thing and just didn't know what I was going to do, at the time. I was fortunate that I had, my parents that were supportive and allowed me to just go back to their place for a little bit, catch my breath, figure out what I wanted to do next. And I owned a house at the time, and this was, 2022. So not,
Mm,
real estate's doing really good at the time. And I decided to put the house on the market and sell it. And it did well. And it allowed me to kind of pay off any debts I had. And then also had some money where it was like, all right, there's no pressure here for me to just rush into another job. I was unhappy with some of the office jobs I had done. I mean, I enjoyed it at first, but got burnt out real fast. Just kind of wanted something a little bit more exciting, something more I was passionate about. So during that time that I've got a little bit of comfort room there with the money from the selling of the house, I decided to kind of start just having fun making some comedy stuff. I was always into comedy, always considered the funny guy, always liked making people laugh from a young age, till now. And so I got on TikTok. I had an account on TikTok before that, but wasn't super active with making stuff on it. And I was like, all right, I'm going to kind of figure this out and start playing around with it. So I did, and started to have some success. Had some people like a lot of the stuff. I started kind of, I think the first thing that hit was like the single mom stuff that I do, like trying to get the single mom next door to notice me, and like
yep.
all these just comedic thirst trap style stuff, So once that kind of had success, I was like, all right, people, like what I'm putting out. Let me go a little further, see if I can do some sketch type comedy and see if they like that. And they did. And so I was kind of just doing it around stuff that I was involved in at the time. So pickleball was a big one, getting back in shape. That's where the CrossFit and the fitness stuff came from, trying to get back in shape after being out of shape. I was just kind of choosing things I was doing and sort of poking fun at myself, and then found that people could relate to it because they were in the same boat or knew someone in the same boat or whatever. So just sort of took off from there.
Yeah. And so when you were started the content creating, so did you decide, were you like filming like every single day, or did you have like a set thing? Did you brainstorm most of the time before doing those skits, or like, was it kind of like, oh, like last minute, like, oh, okay, this would be a great idea. Let's do it.
Yeah, so on TikTok at the time, what I was reading and hearing was that you should post about 4 times a day to try to get something to jump off. And now that could be a quick 15-second trend type video that you just do your own take on a trend, or it could be this, or it could be that. So for a little while, I was trying to hammer that and just put them out there until the single mom stuff took. And I'd kind of, with the single mom stuff, I just sort of, it was my own thing. I took a twist off something, it wasn't even, you see maybe some similar type stuff, but not really, I just kind of decided to do it one day and thought it was funny. And sure enough, it worked. But then I kind of, as I started getting longer form sketch stuff and all that, I found I was like, all right, I'm not doing more than one a day. I don't want, I'm going to do just one longer form sketch here and see if that works. And then once they started to do well and kind of take off, it was like I would literally just sort of think that day of what, it was like a in the moment thing. Like, all right, what do I want to do today? I want to do something on fitness, or I want to do this, and then go out there and start kind of shooting it. And as I was shooting it, it would just sort of turn into what it was turning into.
Yeah. I've heard so many people, they're like, oh, you need to post like 3 times a day. And I'm like, who has the
Yeah.
time to do 3 videos a day? I mean, like, I was working at the time, like, and it's maybe one, if that, like, and it's
Yeah.
like, not everyone wants to see me lifting weights or like doing my podcast or anything like that. So it's just like, that's
It's
kind of
hard.
hard. Yeah.
Especially with a job. I was fortunate to not have a job, so I had the time to kind of do it. But even still, man, it just more than once is a lot to ask of anybody, I think.
Yeah, yeah, it's crazy. But while you're on TikTok and slowly growing that space, so did you have any people that you were like looking on TikTok or even YouTube or any other platform that kind of was a big inspiration for you to kind of get into that space?
Yeah, there was I kind of discovered more content creators that I liked as I started doing it. With TikTok, it's easier, I guess, because you can just scroll. All you're doing is scrolling constantly. It's not
Yep.
like Instagram as much. It's just constant scrolling. And so you're just coming across these videos, right? And you're seeing all these different videos of people. And what I would do is notice which ones were being very successful, how they were shot, and just kind of learning that way, like looking at the quality of the video that they were putting out, looking at the audio, maybe, why did this video do so well versus this one, and learning through that process, and then taking it and kind of forming it for what I wanted to do, right?
Yeah.
So I think that was the best way, especially being new, to kind of learn how to do it.
Yeah. Have you repurposed your content to go into YouTube at all, for the YouTube Shorts?
Yeah, so I'll repost a lot of times for the shorts. I want to kind of, part of my goal for 2024 at least has been trying to get more serious about YouTube, and I want to figure out kind of what to do, because as you know, I mean, it's a whole different beast, right? I mean, the shorts are good, but people aren't going to YouTube for the shorts. They're going really because you can watch all kinds of stuff on YouTube, movies,
Yep. Yep.
So I want to do a better job of that. I started throwing stuff on YouTube that I make on Instagram and TikTok, just to try to get some subscribers going on YouTube and get a little bit of traffic going on YouTube. So I'm going to keep doing that until I figure out, I think, what I want to do with my YouTube channel for sure.
Yeah. So I try to post one short every single day for at least 6 to 7 days. And so I've noticed I've have two videos that have gone over 1 million.
Dang, that's awesome.
And it's crazy because like one of them, I'm not even in it. And it's just like some dude from TikTok that I follow. He did like a heavy clean and he rolled backwards and he was on one of those like those elevated platforms with like the gap in between, and the bar went over and fell in the gap. And so he got his neck stuck on there. And so that was one of them that actually just went to the moon. And then there was another one where I think I was on my dock and this kid tried to do a clean and jerk and he jerked it, but he was like off balance.
Mm-hmm.
And so I said, what would you do in this situation? And then like he dropped the bar and literally almost hit his head, but I'm like, ooh. And it just skyrocketed to like 1.2 million like views.
Dang.
And I'm like, and then like I do some other ones and I'm barely getting like 4,000, 1,000. So my goal for me is like just to get over 1,000 views.
Yeah.
And I'll be happy. So, but it's like, or even a couple subscribers. The main thing is just like the views and subscribers.
Yeah. YouTube is such a different beast. I mean, all the platforms are that way, man. Like, I always tell people all the time that are really successful on Instagram and they're not successful on TikTok, because my TikTok has slowed down a little bit because I've been so focused on Instagram. But when I was doing TikTok and having success on TikTok, I wasn't focused on Instagram. And then Instagram started doing well, so I became focused on Instagram. So it's like you really have to watch these platforms. Like, for those listening that are interested in this, in my experience, it's like watch each platform separately. Like if I want to find success on YouTube, I'm going to find a page that is kind of got the vibe that I like and similar to how I would plan to shoot and edit my stuff and put, and then not copy by any means, but just use that, look at that as kind of an outline, and then take it and replicate it into my own, original type content, and just let it fit, and find stuff from other channels and pull it together and make it into something that works. So it takes a lot of watching content too, I think, to be good at it.
Yeah. How much content do you watch per day roughly?
Man, not much anymore. But when I started, I was always constantly scrolling. But now it's like, because I have something that's, I've got an audience watching the stuff that I'm putting out, and liking kind of how I'm putting out these videos, I don't necessarily have to watch as much. I just don't have the time. But every now and then, you know, I'll just look to have fun and watch and everything. And I'll see something and go, I need to do something like that in the CrossFit space, or something like that in the pickleball space, or something, you know. So it's always good to consume a little bit, I think.
Yeah, you should. Well, I'm not telling you what to do, but maybe you should consider doing like a pickleball like meme video of you trying to move all your stuff like out of the apartment and take the pickleball like thing and hit the boxes out of the door or something like that. Just something stupid. Or you could do or you can like clean boxes or something like that. Just like pick them up and clean them and like just throw them out the hallway for like
That's
a CrossFit
right.
thing. So
that's right.
but while being a content creator, so you probably get like hundreds or even thousands of people of like writing comments of like laughing emojis, or like someone that's like, hey, thank you for doing this, just like kind of turn my day around. But all those great comments, do you get like bummed out when you see like one negative one? And if you do, how do you kind of like take that away from your thoughts?
Man, excellent question. So, that's the struggle, right? It's like, especially with people, I think, that are younger, trying to do content, that's where it gets hard, because I know when I was younger, a comment like that affected me a lot more. And I think but yeah, definitely sometimes get people trolling or just saying stupid stuff. And the way I've learned to handle that, and it's actually been a blessing for me, because it's helping me to grow. And it's helping me to become a more confident person and become someone. So like one of the reasons, I think, especially getting out of that rehab and everything, I just decided that I was going to stop caring what other people thought about me, and learn to be happy and learn to live life and say, screw all these other people and what all they think. And I took that mindset into my content, but I also have been very deliberate and specific about responding to anyone who says something negative with kindness, right? It wins every time in my book. You're going to have someone say something stupid or whatever, or say, you get a lot of people, especially as I'm trying to lose weight, making fat jokes or fat comments, and they know nothing about my history. They know nothing about my military history. They know nothing about being injured in combat and receiving a Purple Heart, and nothing about, they don't know. And part of me, in my mind at first is like, this motherfucker, like, I'm gonna show him, dude.
Yeah.
And but I was like, that does no good, So what I've decided to do is someone responds, comments or something, you're right, man. I've definitely got some weight to lose, working on it. Appreciate you watching the video, and thanks for your comment. And I've had several people, and a lot of times I'll pin a negative comment to the top and respond with kindness and let other people see it, and see how I'm choosing to respond to that, because I've not to be like, look at me and look how good, but to just maybe set a new standard, maybe we can do things differently, because obviously the person, for the most part, that's making those comments or saying these negative things, they've got something going on in there. They're not happy with themselves, so they put other people down. They're not all the typical stuff. And I know this because I used to be that person. Now, that's not the case with everybody. Some people are just being assholes and trolls and want to have fun with it. But a lot of times, whenever I've chosen to respond kindly to these people and everything, I've even had some people come back and message and apologize and say, hey, I shouldn't have said that. I was and it was like, okay, so there's, choose to respond with kindness. And the reason I do that for real is one of the main reasons is because it helps me grow as a person. Mm-hmm. Like, instead of getting angry, holding a resentment, blowing up, it's just always say it's, I used to think that if I didn't defend myself or stand up, not defend myself, it's the wrong words, because there's definitely a time and place to defend yourself. But if I didn't respond with anger or get back in someone's face or do this or say this negative thing to them, then I was weak, right? Like, I wasn't being a man or whatever. But I found that that's not the case. What strength looks like is like choosing not to respond that way, and choosing to respond with some kindness and some grace and some mercy, and show those people some love, even though it's super hard to do that. So like, I'm growing through that process. So oftentimes I look forward to a negative comment, because it's like, yes, chance to grow here. Got a chance to grow here.
Awesome. Yeah. You know what? I've gotten a couple and I've deleted them. And then like, for me, like with your way of doing it, I'm like, damn, like when you were saying that, I was like, damn, I really should have done that. I really should have done that.
Now
So
I'll delete some every now and then if I'm just not in the mood or it's
yeah,
super early and I'm like, this dumbass, and I'll just delete it. But so that's always an option. I think deleting is definitely better than you see people like, yeah, well, I just looked at your profile and you were
yeah,
fat.
yeah, yeah,
It's
exactly.
like
Yeah,
that
yeah,
just
yeah.
makes you look dumb when you do that. So,
Yep. Yeah. Totally right. Totally right. But you were talking about your fitness journey and fitness journey and like losing weight. So I know you're doing CrossFit and CrossFit content. So how did CrossFit come about for you? And what made you kind of stick with it?
um, well, I'd always kind of known about CrossFit, even whenever I wasn't doing it. And then whenever I decided to get back in shape or start working towards getting back in shape, um, my brother was telling me that he had just gotten into CrossFit, and he was telling me, about him and his friends doing it. You got to try it, man. It's really good, blah, blah, blah. And I'd always known, I was like, dude, I mean, I know it can get your ass in shape. I've seen it. I've seen it for people. Like, I know
Yeah.
you stick to it and you stay committed to it. Like, it'll get you in shape. And so I was like, okay, I think I will try to give this a shot. And so I started making some content around it. And then that led to me getting more involved into it, being invited to gyms, and what I found whenever I started going to those, because a lot about what I talk about on my platform too, is how challenging it can be to be the person that's not in good shape and walk into an environment where you're just
Yeah.
uncomfortable. There's a lot of in shape people. Even if you're not just talking about CrossFit gyms specifically, but any
Oh yeah,
gym,
definitely. Yeah.
there's a confidence issue there. That's what a lot of people have said. Like, my content helps them to get back into the gym and to get back, they see me doing it and not caring about what people think and how I look and all that kind of stuff. And then, maybe it'll help somebody get back into the environment. But what I found with the CrossFit environment is, and I'm sure you know this, is they're super loving, welcoming
Oh
people and
yeah,
accepting
absolutely.
people and motivating. And then you get there and you realize, like, hey, I'm not the only one that's out of shape here. I'm not the only one who's struggling with confidence issues about coming out here. I'm not. And then you form a little friend group, and then you kind of get more and more into it. And they're even the most fittest of people, even the most elite athletes out there, in my experience, have been so gracious and kind and helpful, and with me and my journey and supporting that. And I know it's like that for others. So I just
Yeah.
kind of fell in love with the CrossFit environment and community.
Yeah. So when I was personal training, we had we always had people that were like overweight coming in and being like, I'm really nervous, and
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, hey, like, don't worry about it. All these people in here are trying to do something and they're not really they're not concentrating on you. So
Mm-hmm.
just focus on you. You're definitely, if you stick with me, you're definitely going to get people saying like, hey, you're doing great. I see you working really hard. And that's what they got. Like, I would literally have people that come from the gym that are working out at the same time walk up to my clients and saying, hey, I see that you're doing a great job. You're looking great. Keep it up. And so,
Yeah.
and it's great. It's like everyone's so worried about other people. They just focus on what they need to do at hands and not worry about anybody else because they don't because
Yeah.
they don't care. So
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, and it's hard to get to that place. I get that a lot with the whole people see me and they're like, "Man, if I just had one," I'll see that comment a lot. If I just had a little bit of this man's confidence or a little bit, it's like, "Man, I'm not doing anything different than you're doing. It's just what I'm doing is deciding not to care what other people think about me and
yeah,
letting that affect how I choose to live my life, because for a long time it did, and I think it does for a lot of people. We all can still get, and I still have to catch myself too, but it's easy to let others dictate how you feel and how you feel about yourself and how you
hmm
love yourself and how you do that, because you have one negative experience or someone laughs at you or this or that, then you're like, man, I need to make some changes, or I'm never going back to that gym again, or I'm never forget working out. That's not for me. And you don't have realize how big of an impact that can be on somebody's life.
yeah,
You know what
of
I mean?
course,
So
yeah,
I try to set a different example and show some love. It's like you mentioned, like people coming up to some clients of yours that were out of shape or whatever, and they start seeing some changes, and someone makes a compliment like, "Man, you're losing weight." Like, that's so huge for somebody, because that person working out, they probably don't see the change,
hmm
because someone else usually sees it and notices it before you will.
Yeah.
Because we're always looking at ourselves. We're our biggest critic. We're always, looking in the mirror, this and that. It's like we have to live with ourselves every day, so we don't see the changes like other people do. So, that's kind of a reminder for me too. Like, be the person that's making those compliments. If you see someone that, would benefit from that, say it, don't hold it back. So,
yeah, especially for guys too, because
yeah,
guys don't really get compliments compared to like females or whatnot. So like even saying like, "Hey man, that was great form," or like that looked like a great lift, that one little positive feedback that like quote that you get, like, word that you gave them would probably make their day, make their whole week. Who knows? Because
yeah,
they don't get, like, I've noticed guys don't really get compliments
yeah,
that
yeah,
much as compared to females. So like just that one little thing can do a lot for somebody.
yeah, totally.
So when you got into CrossFit and you started doing CrossFit content, you started, you started getting more and more, sponsors or whatnot, or people like promoting your product. So what are some of the ones that you have been involved with, and what makes you want to, like, you probably get tons of emails or direct messages for sponsors saying, "Hey, try my stuff." What are the ones that you like that make you want to stick with them?
Yeah. So, when brand deals started happening and this started growing, um, what I tried to do was find a way, because I didn't want my audience to only see a bunch of ads.
Yeah.
One, that's the best way to kill a growing content, is just shove ads in their face. I wanted to provide something, and I always was providing this comedy stuff. So when it came, but to do this full time, you got to make money at it. And the best way to make money at it, in my opinion, at the influencer level, is you got to market some stuff, right? You got to have some sponsorships. So I found a way to incorporate products into my comedy routine. So for me, what that looks like is, if a brand approaches and it's just not a good fit, it's not going to be a product that I'm going to use, or a product that that would make sense to go in one of my comedy routines, or I just couldn't think of a way to make it funny or whatever, then I'm
Mhm.
not going to do it, because it wouldn't feel right. I still want to, my focus is to still put out funny, good, watchable videos that, if you care about the product or not, doesn't matter. You're going to get some laughs out of it anyways. But I found that partnering with the right brands, RX Smart Gear, Ice Barrel, Blokes is another good one. I work with several, and they all fit into what I'm kind of doing, the pickleball stuff or the fitness stuff. And they also are very, the ones that I'm working with, it was never dependent upon my results, right? Because I do a lot of
Mhm.
fitness stuff and a lot of pickleball stuff. It was never like, "Hey, love you using our product, but really wish you would kind of lose some weight now because it's making us look better." It's
Yeah.
not about that.
Yeah,
They're
yeah,
just
yeah.
a part of the journey. They're just supporting, and and it's a break from the normal fitness content you see. It's not some rip dude using this product and showing you how to do this perfect lift, and people are just watching it going, "Yeah, right, buddy. I'll never have abs like that," or "I'll never,"
Mhm.
it's so just finding the right ones that fit, and then allow me to kind of do my thing with it. I love it when the conversation, it's like, "Hey, we love your content. We don't want to tell you what to do at all. If you could just focus on this product, or focus on this aspect of the benefits of the product, and then incorporate it into your stuff, that's all So I love that. I don't want to get on there and have someone dictate what I'm doing, because then I just feel like I wouldn't make something genuine.
True, true. So, you've been bouncing around like all over the place and stuff like that. So how do you, maintain your fitness and eating healthy, and while like traveling to all these different places, and obviously the different time zones and stuff, and that kind of jack you up. So how do you manage that whole situation?
It's so tough sometimes, man. That was one of the things I struggled with for sure in the first part of this journey. Traveled a lot in 2023, and I was still trying to get in shape. Now, what was nice is that a lot of the traveling I was doing was around fitness stuff or CrossFit stuff. So you're going to
Mhm.
be kind of in some environments where they're like, "Hey, let's go hit this workout," or "Hey, let's go do this," you know. But I started having real results for me, and this is just me. But when I started working with Blokes, which, if you don't know, there's Blokes, which is men's comprehensive health, Joy women's wellness, which is the female side of it, It's basically like you get your blood tested. You have a Zoom call with a doctor. They go over your blood and you figure out what's going on. You see what's going on. I had super low testosterone, like insanely low testosterone. I was borderline type 2 diabetic. I was, all these issues from eating bad and being overweight and so I was scared to do it at first. I was scared to do the blood test. And then I was like, but I know it's going to be bad. Give it to me, doc, and but I felt so much relief after seeing and hearing the things. And it's like, hey, look, all these things are fixable, man. We got to fix it. Let's fix it though. So they put me on some things to get my testosterone levels up and raising so that we can, operate like I should be operating. I got on semaglutide, which is basically like Ozempic, which a lot of people are having success with. And I'm down, like 35 pounds since October from that. So
nice. Good for you.
I had to have a jump start. I had to have something help me. I had to get optimized, internally so that I could start seeing. And that's only sparked me living a healthier life, like starting to actually lose weight. And getting my energy and my strength back up and all that stuff from the testosterone getting back to normal has only helped me to live a healthier life and make better decisions. Now that I'm losing weight again and starting to look better and feel better and all these things, I'm starting to be more aware of what I'm putting into my body. I'm starting to be more aware that I need to prioritize working out each day. I'm starting to be, it's just making me want to live a healthier lifestyle. And so I was glad that I was able to work with blokes and that they came alongside me and said, let's get your blood work done. Let's see what's going on. And now we do it. I think every 3 months you get your blood work done, get on a call again. They check your levels. They see the progress. They see if they need to change anything. So it's been super, super helpful.
Yeah. So I know you said you wanted to get on a healthier path, but Mike, one of the questions I had was, do you think if you lose, like you get to the weight that you really want to get to, do you think that will hurt your brand because it was mainly like based on you being overweight or whatnot? So like, and how are you think would you being fitter will change that?
I love that question. I get that question a lot. I get a lot of times people saying like, if this dude gets in too good a shape, he's not going to be funny anymore. If this dude, and so it doesn't bother me because I've been in shape a lot more than I've been out of shape in my life. And a lot of people don't know that. A lot of people don't know that I was in the military, in the infantry, went through special forces selection, best shape of my life. And I was always funny. I was always the funny guy. I think it'll change what the content looks like a little bit, and how I approach the content, because a lot of the stuff I do now, I take my shirt off and it's funny. I take, I choose to do things a little bit differently to kind of emphasize, but I think it's just it'll be a good change for my content. It'll give me something new to do. But at the same time, a part of it's been like outside of the comedy, Fit to Serve, my page I have a message behind it, finding your purpose, living out your purpose, whatever that looks like. Doesn't matter how you look physically, whatever. We're all built in some way to serve. What does that look like for you? Kind of the overall quick summary of the message. But, I want to be able to take what I've done and say, hey, look, this is how I chose to get back in shape. A lot of times how I look physically was dependent, again, like we talked about, on because I wanted to look good and impress other people and have friends and have a girlfriend and have all these things. Yep. It was very superficial of a reason, and it wasn't a lasting reason for me to stay in shape, because obviously I got out of shape. For me, it's a different message now. It's like I care about my physical health because I first did something about my mental health, which has caused me to have a new lease on life, a new look at life. Like I care about my physical health now because I want to experience life. I want to be able to do more things. I want to be able to go places. I want to have longevity in life. Yeah. And that came from fixing my mental health first. So that's a big part of the message. And I think ultimately it's like, I'm doing all this fitness stuff and pickleball stuff. And if I don't lose weight, people are going to think I'm full of shit. I got to start losing some weight at some point.
Well, I mean, I think it's going to be a good inspiration for people. Like, hey, look at where I was now. Look where I was before into where I'm at now. It's possible.
Yeah. So I agree.
So, you've been so with these sponsors, you've been to like a bunch of places, especially in the CrossFit and the pickleball space. So, out of all the places you've been to, what has been the best place that you've gone to for sponsors and why?
Ooh, that is a tough one. All right, number one. I've got the number one already, but
Okay.
there's been a lot of good ones. CrossFit games have been fun. Multiple pickleball tournaments, professional pickleball tournaments have been fun to go to. Anywhere where you go and you get to see people that really enjoy and appreciate and engage with the content, and they come up and talk to you and everything has been a blast. It's so humbling, and it motivates me to keep going, man, and keep
Yeah.
doing this thing and keep pushing. Um, but with Chubby's, which is a clothing sponsor of mine, love Chubby's clothes, wear them all the time. Got done several deals with them, and then now currently on a 1-year deal. They invited me last year to Tight End University, which is George Kittle, Travis Kelce, and Greg
Yep.
Olson's event for the tight ends. And it's actually here in Nashville. And it was so cool. I mean, I was the only influencer that Chubby's invited out, which was fun. And they had some, because they have a clothing deal with George Kittle, and George Kittle has his own Chubby's kind of clothing line deal. They were a big sponsor of that event. So they had me come out to help make some content with them. And we got to experience the whole thing, be on the field, with them while they're training, go to the parties at night, shoot some stuff with George Kittle, shoot some stuff, meet Rob Gronkowski, meet Travis Kelce, meet, doing all these things. Theo Vaughn's there, just Josh Allen came down to throw some passes to the guys. It was just really cool.
That's awesome.
Busting with the boys guys were there who are based out of Nashville as well. It was a lot of fun and kind of a who's who of, in that realm, especially for NFL tight ends and people that make content around it and just friends of George Kittle and them. It was so cool, man.
Yeah, that's awesome. How was Wadapalooza for you? Because actually, first of all, before that, I literally get Chubby's advertisements with you on it almost like literally on an hour basis. It's like literally I'm scrolling through Instagram and it's just like, oh, there's Evan again. There's Evan again. And it's like either you by yourself or with like I don't know what was the Buttery Bros one of the ads too? Yeah.
Yeah,
So like
probably. Yeah.
literally either one of those two or like there's maybe another one. Like literally I see your face like every single time if I see an ad for Chubby's.
So good, man. Yeah, I love Chubby's, man. It's a lot of fun doing work with them. They're cool to work with.
Yeah. So how was Wadapalooza? Was that your first time going this year?
Yeah. Had a blast, man. It was so much fun just being in Miami. The crowd was hyped, tons of fans of the content there I got to meet and hang out with and just see, some athlete friends that are mine, do some more stuff with the Buttery Bros. So it's a party, man. It's a party.
Yeah. The funniest one, I think the funniest meme that you did was I think it was RX Smart Gear when you had those trainer like jump rope and like you're shaking it and there's like I don't know who that guy was, but the guy with full tatted out and just just swim trunks.
Yeah.
That's it. Not even swim trunks, like a banana hammock.
Yeah.
And like you guys are doing stuff and like doing dances. And the guy from RX Smart Gear is like, what the hell are you doing?
Yeah. So that's my buddy Lucas Doney. He's in he's in San Diego where RX Smart Gear is and friends with RX Smart Gear. And a lot of times when they go do shows, he'll come and help out, and he brought his Speedo with him and he was like, because we wanted to go, down to Ice Barrel booth and get in one of the ice barrels and he was going to wear a Speedo. And then when he put it on, it's like, we got to do, my friend Crystal, who's like the brand director at RX, she was like, we got to do something in the Speedo with the thing. And then Dave, of course, Dave Newman's there. And we had the things we're shaking are the trainers. So like the tempo trainers. Mm-hmm. So like he uses those handles. It's basically like a maraca is what I was trying to use them as, where you shake it and make the noise.
Yep.
He's, it's like to get your tempo down for double unders or whatever, right? They make noise every time you do it. And so I was like, this would be funny to use these like maracas, and it was so good.
That's awesome. So we're getting close to the end. So I have some like rapid fire questions. They're not really, I always say they're not really rapid fire, so you can kind of take as long as you want on these. So so obviously it's February. Do you have any goals that you want to hit like personally or business wise at the end of the year?
Yeah, end of the year goals. So I'd always kind of set follower count goals. Like TikTok, I think I wanted it's either 200 or 250,000 followers on TikTok. I think 200 to 250 on Instagram as well. I think I set 5,000 subscribers, maybe 5 or 6,000 subscribers as a goal for YouTube. But another business goal of mine was kind of like we discussed with growing the YouTube side of things and trying to figure out kind of what that looks like and dedicating some more time to that.
Yeah. To be honest with you, I really think if you start putting your content out there, like you're going to get that 5,000, like real quick.
Yeah.
Real quick. Cause for me, like obviously I do the podcast on there and I do like lifting lifting weights and stuff on there.
Yeah.
And so like I get some growth in that, but I think they're more leaning towards like the meme side. Cause there's sometimes when I log on to YouTube on my phone, it goes straight to the shorts because they're trying to promote it. So I think you could easily get 5K easily on YouTube.
Yeah. I need to focus on putting some stuff out there.
Yeah, definitely. So do you have a favorite book you like to read or like give as a gift to your friends?
Gosh, I'm not a huge reader, and I got asked that question on another podcast not long ago, and I felt like a dumbass because I was like, I can't even think of one book. The Bible? Is that a safe answer?
That's a safe answer. Yes, that's good.
That's a safe answer. We'll go with the Bible.
Okay, cool. What is something that you like to do that no one has no idea that you like to do it?
Play the guitar. I'm okay at it. I'm okay at it. I'm that was actually another kind of goal for mine this year is to play it every day, at least for a few minutes and get better at it. But I enjoy playing the guitar.
Very cool. So do you have like a 6-string? Because my dad used to play guitar and he had a 12-string.
I've got a 6-string acoustic. Yeah. I couldn't imagine playing a 12-string.
Yeah. He was like a wizard on that thing. He would just sit there and just like jam. Like he used to do like, sing like, church music and stuff like that. And like, he would play his guitar there and like, man, he was like a wizard on that thing. Just
That's
like
crazy.
It was unreal. And I'm like, I want to learn how to play this guitar. And he's like, it's going to take you a very, very long time. So and I'm like,
thanks,
okay.
Dad.
Yeah, thanks. Appreciate it. So, but next question. So what is in your gym bag?
Ooh, creatine gummies. Take them with me everywhere. I don't know if you've tried them yet, and this is I'm not sponsored by them, so this is not a plug. But they're fantastic, and I like getting in creatine. I've been doing a lot more of that. I just got today in the mail, so this is going in there. The Danny Spiegel edition tier shoes.
Okay.
I don't know if you've seen them.
I have.
She sent some to me, and it was like a surprise, kind of, because I was like, Tier sent something, and I look, and it's Danny Spiegel's new shoes. So cool. Looks really cool. The packaging is cool. You open the box, there's a little postcard in there from her talking about, and the shoes look really good. So those are going in the bag immediately.
Okay.
I'm not a huge pre-workout guy, but actually I took it tonight before I went to work out, but Organifi's got greens and red juices and stuff, and you use the reds before a workout, man. It does kind of get the blood pumping and flowing a little bit. So I like to do that instead of like a jittery, thing. Then of course I got to have my RX Smart Gear jump rope, couple of them, to be ready. They made so, you can get them custom done to your size, right? So you got your jump rope, so you're ready to go. And then they got some grips too that I like. So, and a towel, little deodorant, freshen up in case you gotta, change your underwear is always important for me. You gotta have a couple changes of underwear, dude.
Yeah. I get out of the gym and I literally have an extra t-shirt in my car because I'll literally take the other shirt off and then just like put the other one on because I don't want to like sweat all over the place.
Drive home and that sweaty stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. No, thank you. So this one's kind of a deep question. So how do you want people to know you as? Like, this is your last day on earth, and how do you want people to know you as, Evan Slaughter?
I guess I want people to know me as someone who didn't give up, that was kind of my thing, who struggled, definitely had my struggles, definitely had, my demons in this world and experienced that. But but someone who went through that and didn't quit fighting. Always fought to try to get it back in course and become the best version of myself that I could be. So
Awesome. Yeah, great. Last question. So actually, I have another one. So you've done a lot of podcasts,
yeah.
because I was doing my research. So what do you like about podcasts that you keep on wanting to do more and more?
I heard someone else say one time, I think that was a social media influencer that's got a big following, is that they never turn down a podcast invite. And I can say that for the most part, for me, that's been the case. If someone approaches and they got a deal going on, I want to get out there because it's an opportunity for me to share my story, right? And it's also an opportunity to help the person grow in their podcast. If I know if I had a podcast going and I approached somebody that I really wanted on the show, my hopes would be that they would say yes and come and enjoy it and have a good time.
Yeah.
I think the only podcast that I would turn down is one that just didn't align with my beliefs and my values and what I'm trying to do and what wouldn't make sense for me to be on. I think I've only had about 2 invites for ones. I was like, I just don't see myself doing being of value here, being able to really contribute to what you guys are sharing or whatever. Not knocking them or their podcast or anything, just you know what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Kind of
Yeah.
like, why? I don't even know why you asked me. I don't know. But no, for the most part, I'd say that I enjoy the opportunity to share my message, and I've met a lot of cool people and a lot of cool connections from doing them, and like contributing and helping to help someone grow their platform as well.
All right. Very cool. Very cool. Last question. All right. So where can people reach out to you if they have any questions about being a content creator, doing CrossFit or pretty much anything?
Yeah, for sure. So I'm pretty good about responding to DMs on
You are.
Instagram.
Yeah.
Sometimes they get hectic or whatever, but I always check my hidden requests folder, even if a message goes there, just to see who's reaching out. But also my email that's on my profile, fittoservemgmt@gmail.com. It's me that checks and responds to that email. I do have a manager now, but all of that is forwarded to her separately. So anybody that sends an email as well, I do my best to go through those too.
Awesome. Very cool. Well, hey, thank you for coming on. I really do appreciate you taking the time and learning more about you and, you know, just moving to Nashville, your, addiction to becoming a better person. Thank you.
Yeah, Tom, I appreciate you having me on, man, for sure.